Hi, everyone. This is Eva from SocaMom.com, and I'm so glad that you've joined us for the first Soca Mom Summit. We have some amazing women here to talk to you about something that we've all been concerned about. We can't even move around within our own cities and within our own communities, but a lot of us are used to moving around the world. Like, I had my first passport when I was less than 2 years old, because you got to go, I was raised in the US, but you got to go back home with your grandmother and stay there for however long you got to stay there. So a lot of us have been raised as travelers, as world travelers. So I have some experts here to talk with us about how this is going to look going forward and what you can do to make sure that you're safe and that you are doing the right things now and going forward when it comes to travel. And we're also going to talk about how travel businesses are doing right now, because a lot of us have family that are relying on travel and tourism. So we have some really, really great experts here to talk with you. Their bios and everything is on SocaMomSummit.com, but I'm going to have them tell you about themselves right now. And we will start with Melissa.
I am Melissa Noel, an award-winning multimedia journalist, television host, and media entrepreneur. I focus a lot of my work on the Caribbean region in particular, because I want to ensure that in mainstream news outlets, we are seeing and hearing about the Caribbean in all its diversity, and with the layers that come with any as or television, One Caribbean TV, CBS, USBI, and NBC News and HuffPost.com. And I'm really excited to be a part of this amazing panel today to just talk a little bit about something that I focus heavily on.
Hi, everyone. My name is JoAnna. I am a travel and lifestyle blogger at JoAnnaE.com. I focus on travel guides and tips in and out of the U.S., particularly in the Caribbean. I focus on things to do culturally that's more than just the sand, sea, and sun that's pretty much advertised. More music, dance, anything that's culturally related. And thank you, Soca Mom. Thank you, Eva, for having me here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ursula Barzey, and my family is from the Caribbean island of Montserrat. And I've had a Caribbean travel culture, lifestyle blog for the past 6 years. I actually got involved or started it because I was actually working on a campaign to, promote, Montserrat's festival, and in searching, I sort of realized that there weren't enough of us, meaning Caribbean people, telling our own stories. So I've been involved with that for about 6 years, and in addition to that, I also have a digital marketing practice, and I primarily work with tourism and travel brands in Europe. So it's been quite interesting to get the perspective of how, this thing is, affecting, not only the Caribbean, but also in Europe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oneika Raymond, and I am a travel and lifestyle host, journalist, and expert. I also have my own blog, which is called OneikaTheTraveler.com. And basically my mandate is to help women of color primarily live their best lives, both at home and abroad. I am Jamaican, I'm Jamaican Canadian, and that basically it's infused in all of my content. I'm a fierce proponent of women, especially Black women, traveling. And really what I aim to do is show people how they can travel the world and delve into the culture. In addition to running my travel blog and obviously my social media platforms, I'm also a correspondent for NBC New York, and also a host of 2 series on Travel Channel.
Let's start by talking about how this has affected you all personally and professionally. I know, Oneika, you just had a new little one. Congratulations. You are officially
congrats.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you'll probably hear her crying in the background. She's napping currently, but we'll see how long for.
Well, that's the best thing about this summit. Kids are welcome.
Fantastic.
You will hear children in the background of a lot of people's sessions, y'all. So don't be upset. It's what you're going to hear. This is what we do. So congratulations to you. How has that affected your dreams and plans for her? Because I know you wanted her to be like your kind of a mini me, your sidekick, and introduce her to everything you love about travel. Tell us about how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Even we're maybe about 4 weeks into the pandemic. I'm currently based in New York. And if you've been watching the news, you will know that New York is currently on pause. So we're all on quarantine. We're all advised to stay home. And she's only 3 months old, but I've already had to cancel 2 trips. Last week, we were supposed to be in Southern Florida. And a few weeks previous to that, we were supposed to be in Southern California. So this has already had an impact on her living her best travel life. But clearly, it's in our best interest to stay home. This was not how I envisioned her first few months of life. I assumed that as soon as she got her first vaccinations at 2 months old, I assumed that we would be jet setting. We do have plans to travel internationally. I actually grew up in Toronto, Canada. And unfortunately, due to all the different travel restrictions, I haven't even had the chance to bring her home. So, her grandmother, my mother, calls basically every day, trying to check up on our picnic as no, she'll call, well, come, all of that sort of thing. And yeah, I really hope to instill in her all of these Caribbean values and so on that I myself grew up with. But definitely it's a little bit harder given the current travel climate. So
Melissa, how has this affected you professionally? I know a lot of the coverage that you do is all over the Caribbean, all over the country whenever there's something going on related to our community. How are you dealing with this when you have to stay put?
Yeah, so I have to say that I was in denial for a little bit, I have to say. When things really got real, I was actually in Antigua and then in Montserrat and had to cut that travel short in order to return home when I realized that, hey, this situation is getting a lot more serious. And because I'm based in the New York area, I said, let me get back to my, where my parents, where my sister are, and my immediate family are, because, I realized that borders would start to shut down and those things would happen. For me, I typically split my time between the New York City area and the Eastern Caribbean region for work. So to not be able to kind of pick up and go, spending half of my month at home and half of my month in the Caribbean was something really daunting for me. It took me a while to accept that, okay, I'm going to be grounded for a while, but then I said, I'm going to have to pivot. Instead of being able to get out there and shoot my content or work with someone to get content in the field, I'm figuring out and I'm collaborating with people who are in the Caribbean to do my job every single day, getting more creative. We're utilizing technology a lot more to be able to do that. So I've had to really, really get creative and pivot and know that I can still do great coverage, but I just have to think outside of the box a little bit more. And on the personal side, I was supposed to be spending Easter with my family in Guyana. I am a proud Guyanese American, and we had planned this trip for quite a while, and now we're not sure when that's going to happen, but I do definitely intend to get to Guyana when I can, spend some time with my family. I'm so sad I won't be able to fly my kite, on the seawall. I wanted to. It has been so long, but we're all safe. We're at home, and I'm just learning how to pivot in the same way that this amazing summit. We're online doing this, and we know that when we can, we'll definitely get back to doing it in person.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you so much for sharing this summit on your show. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I couldn't think of anything better than to start off that new In It Together segment to show how people are pivoting, how communities are coming together, than to share something like this. It was definitely the perfect way to kick off our In It Together series.
Thank you so much. Now, JoAnna, tell us how it's worked for you. You move around a lot. It's like, where is she today? So how have you been dealing?
Well, right now I'm a grad student, so I kind of took a break. Like I still go out here and there, but I've been more focused on school lately. So everything that I planned to do travel wise was after the semester was over, which was the summer. And I kind of wanted to sneak away actually this week because my godparents, they were supposed to go to Trinidad. And I was like, oh, I'll come. I'll work from home, but I'll come. But obviously that couldn't happen. So more so, I just been trying to push out content of things to do based on places that I've already been within the Caribbean, things that I didn't include before, updating old posts, creating new posts. That's really what I've been doing more so. Like I took a break maybe about a month or so just to like focus and like, okay, this is really happening. I'm not going to go anywhere for a while. Like, how can I, like everyone said, how can I pivot? How can I still be productive? And that's what I've been doing now.
Well, I mean, that word pivot is going to be really, really important for everyone right now. Everyone has had to make some sort of change. Ursula, how have you been managing with the amount of work you're doing and being able to cover what's going on?
Yeah, it's been quite, interesting because I've actually been tracking this thing since January, when China, shut down their city. And I was like, what the heck? Because I have, quite a few, European, travel customers, and I was concerned that it was going to affect them. And then also on a personal level, I mean, I was going to go to Montserrat and, have that be a base for about 3 months because my grandaunt turned, 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, this year. And so, I wanted to spend, quite a bit of time with her. And I was initially going to start that trip in March. And then once I kind of saw what was happening in China, I was like, okay, I kind of need to put this on pause. And so I kind of, deferred till the summer. But now it doesn't even look like that's going to happen. And then with one of my European clients, I mean, they have also put their contract with me on pause. So it's been like, ooh, just trying to shore up the finances. And, like everyone said, just try and, look for new opportunities, using some of my, existing skills, beyond travel.
So Oneika, as a person whose most of your career, if not all of it, revolves around travel, how are you managing and what do you feel like your future is going to be? And, what advice can you give to other people like you?
You know what? It's so funny. As terrible as this pandemic is, and as terrible as it is for the world and for industries and for business, this actually happened at a time in my life where I was planning on being at home anyway. As we already noted, I have a newborn. She's 3 months old. And so this was supposed to be my period of stillness anyway. This is essentially my maternity leave. And so when all of this started happening, I thought, okay, well, apart from the fact that I can't get on a plane, and obviously I can't make my way around New York as much as I would have liked to, with regards to work and assignments and all of that stuff had tapered off for me. I had already intentionally kind of tapered that off because I have a newborn and my primary focus is caring for her. With that being said, with regards to my verticals, I've already been kind of inching more and more into the lifestyle vertical and pivoting for the last year or so, just knowing that my life was going to change and that with a child, particularly with a young child, that I was going to have to shift my business. Because you have to understand, previously, I mean, I would be on a plane every single week. 1 week would find me in, there was I guess it was 2 summers ago where I was in Uganda and Rwanda, and then I came back to New York for about 2 days, and then I flew back to the African continent. But this time I was in Senegal, and then I came home for a few days, and then I was in Turkey, and then I was traveling throughout the US. So as a result, I knew that that wasn't something that I was going to be able to keep up with a young child. My advice to travel content creators in particular, because I know a lot of people are freaking out due to the current situation, it's really to dig deep and look at some of your other interests and see where you could effectively pivot. So whether that's by creating products that are centered around travel, that don't require people to get on a plane necessarily, that don't require you to leave your home. So whether you can create products, whether that's a travel book or a guide or something of that nature, or whether it's changing verticals and integrating other different areas of business into, or incorporating those areas of business into your business. So whether you want to shift more towards doing lifestyle content or even towards doing tech content, technology, that would be my advice to travel content creators who have lost their footing and who are figuring out or trying to navigate how to move forward in this difficult time.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are going to have to make that shift. Melissa, tell me what kind of shifts you've seen from like the mainstream news world.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing that pops into my mind is that most of us are reporting from home now, and that's something that I had never really envisioned us seeing. So everything has turned into like how to set up your news reporting from your living room. So that's been really, and something that I didn't think I would see, but everyone is collaborating. And I think that's the biggest thing, collaboration, learning that you need other people to get through this in every sense of the word. And that can mean that you're working with someone that can get you video in another market, or you're learning how to set up your lights at home by yourself, or all that collaboration. So I've seen that happening a lot. And then knowing that everything doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be authentic. People need to know that everything is not going to look 100% amazing, but as long as the quality of what you're giving is there, and you're also showing people that, hey, we're just like you are. We're going through it. We want to make sure our families are okay. And then also on top of that, we're trying our best to we're figuring it out as we're going along, just like everyone else is. And I think that's what viewers have appreciated the most. And then knowing that even though we need to give you the updates on the numbers with what is happening with the pandemic. We need to let you know and inform you of what's happening health-wise and how to keep you safe. We also know that people don't just want that. They want to know about the good that's happening. And once this is over, they want to know about where they can go, what they can do. People still want to dream or still have that kind of fire inside of them, so that when we do get past this, because we will, there are things that they will be able to do too. And I think that's been part of like striking that balance for us, is giving you the updates on the coronavirus pandemic, but also ensuring that you're knowing what's going on and that you will be able to plan for the future, because there will be that too. So I think that's been what I've been seeing, and what's made me happiest is to share some of the creativity that people have shown throughout all of this, and also to show that there's still good stories happening, and we should share those too. People appreciate that.
I love that. I hadn't even thought about the whole collaboration part of it and making it work with technology. That is brilliant to have. Hey, you really can do more actually, because you can collaborate with more people and be in places without ever having to leave. That is brilliant.
Right. And I think that, just to add to that, I think one thing I have been seeing, to Onika's point about just pivoting, and maybe it's looking at something that you hadn't thought of and just expanding what you do. Right now, for people who create travel content, what I've been seeing is a lot of marketing or tourism brands, they're doing virtual tours, or they're doing takeovers to keep themselves on people's minds, and just showing that, hey, we're in this with you too, and here's something to kind of keep your spirits lifted. So people collaborating with these brands, if you're a travel or content creator, try to, maybe it's collaborating with one of those brands you've worked with before, or striking up a new partnership where you can be a part of that virtual tour or that takeover, where we're seeing so many people move, and also looking forward to seeing what's happening online that has to do with something else than, the doom and gloom of the current situation.
That is awesome. So JoAnna, you are up on the blogger side of it. And a lot of us do go to your blog and blogs like yours for that escape that Melissa was talking about. Like with my kids, like the price to go to some of these places and take everybody with me. I need to just go to your website, look at your pictures and be like, ooh, that looks nice. So what are you doing to kind of repurpose your content and collaborate with other people?
So I'm part of a space where we're like encouraging other people to stay at home. So like we had some B-roll of us traveling, like doing immersion classes like cooking or just doing more than just hanging by the beach or by the pool. I was doing adventure travel, things like that, and saying like, stay at home so that the sooner that this curve goes down, that we can go and have fun and do more adventurous things. The world is still here, it's technically not really going anywhere, but just stay home and once this goes down, we're able to just continue to travel. As far as blog content, like I said before, I've just been trying to find new ways to repurpose old content, but also to like shed new light on things that I hadn't mentioned before. So like if I included like things to do, like what historical sites can people visit? What type of music do these islands produce? Like instruments, the different people, the natives, cultural chores, things like that. So actually on Monday, I started just writing out things that I wanted to include and just implementing them within the next few days and few weeks.
That is so smart. That is so smart to plan ahead because like you said, the world is here. It's not going anywhere. All of this is still going to be here. Ursula, tell all of us, I'm sitting here like it's just you and I talking. That's what it feels like. Tell us how it feels in Europe right now, because it has been, we're watching the news and it's wild out there. So tell us what it's been like for your clients and just the region in general.
Yeah, well, with like a lot of my clients, they were sort of in kind of, denial. And in fact, in early March, I was like, okay, this thing is really going to hit. We need to start, putting out some messaging, around how we're going to respond to cancellations or reschedules, etc. And a lot of them were quite, hesitant because they wanted to just, carry on until, things would have got to a head about the third week of March. I'm like, we need to say something. And so finally, most of them, took action. We put out, press statements. And then with one of my larger clients, they are London, Blue Badge, tourist guides. And so they're stuck in their homes now, just like the rest of us. And it's primarily a, American audience. And so we've been, actually doing, lots of virtual content, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we broadcast, and share, lots of, virtual, tourism, experiences to kind of keep the brand fresh, but not too heavy. So, it's not trying to sell, but more do storytelling and, also help people get some kind of, release, because there's lots of content, about, say, London, and even, back to the Caribbean, there are movies, there are TV shows, there are books. So there are lots of ways that, we can help our audiences, connect to those, destinations that we, promote, not just by talking about travel, but by some of the other content that can help, inspire future travel. And so I think that's, sort of been my focus. I mean, with my own personal blog, one of the things that I'm really trying to redo my content strategy, because for this year I was really keen on talking about food. I get so frustrated every time I go to a Caribbean destination or a hotel and it's just mostly American or European food. So I was really, pushing, all the food festivals. And sadly, a lot of them are going to be canceled this year. But I really still do intend to talk about, food security, because that is a major issue for, the Caribbean right now. The Caribbean region, imports about 6 billion, each year in food. Much of it comes from the U.S. And so, if they start, shutting down and saying, no, we're not going to ship food, then it's a huge problem. And it's just so crazy that, we've got rich land, rich soil, and for whatever reason, countries have chosen to go more towards a service industry. And are not really taking care of their folks when it comes to food security. And so that's something I really want to promote, put some ideas out there, because even now, a lot of the hotels are shut, and those farmers that were planting their, tomatoes and all the other vegetables, they now don't know what to do with them. And so it's kind of like we need, manufacturing, production. It's like all these things that are so important to, travel, but also just our people, and I think it's up to us to kind of talk about these things, because it's not just about, beautiful beaches. There's so much more. And it's like for us to kind of help steer that conversation, to kind of, inspire our people that, yes, things are tough right now, and it's definitely a healthcare crisis. And, hopefully things will be much better in, 6 months. I mean, but, the fact is that, the Caribbean is like 45 million people across 34 countries. There's just under 4,000 that are affected. Hopefully, with most of the countries now shut down, they can, contain it. And, we can start to shift into new areas, because yes, travel is very much important, but the whole notion that, every year, we're going to get more and more tourists, it's just not sustainable. I mean, 30 million people already come to the Caribbean each year, and, via, stay over tourism. Then there's another 30 million, via cruise ships. I mean, I can't imagine, anyone wanting to get on a cruise ship in, the next year, 2 years. So it's like, we have to open up the conversation and start to help our, small business owners that are, that are in the region kind of pivot and, refocus their energies, because once their local area is opened up again, they need to start thinking about, okay, how do I put food on the table? And, how do I still reach my audience? And, for me, one of those things is they all need to get on the internet. It's so shocking that so many Caribbean businesses don't have websites. They can't sell online. And, some of that has to do with the whole issue of, corresponding, banking, which makes it, difficult to, accept, credit cards online. But that's something that, we have to push, the governments to kind of work on this stuff, because we're now going to be moving more into a virtual world where, yes, tourism will still be important to the region, but it's not necessarily going to be about getting visitors to come to your destination. It's about using, tourism to market, other products and services, so that, people can stay at their homes in, London, New York, Toronto, and buy things from the Caribbean, whether that's food, art, or other services, or, like one area that I'm really passionate about, and this is something, I'm sorry, I'm like going on a diatribe here, but this is something that I'm really passionate about, is like virtual, tourism. Is that, virtual, reality is like a 30-some billion dollar industry. Gaming is like a $50 billion industry. It's like, we need to embrace these, technologies, because, we can, create, some experiences that are meaningful, that will, allow our people to earn some, income, but not be so, dependent on people coming to our shores. It's like, we need to do a whole mind shift. And, that's going to take, governments as well as, individuals. Once we get past this, okay, yes, we have to take care of our health, and, we have to, secure our borders. It's like, okay, we need to shift and focus on, rebuilding our, economy stronger. Because saying, we just want people to come back, that is not sustainable. I mean, because if it's not some sort of virus, then, you have, the global banking crisis that happened in, 2008, then you had the terror attack in 2001. I was living in, Chicago then. And then, every season, we've got, hurricanes. So there's always something happening that is threatening, the region. And a lot of it is outside of our control. So it's like we have to start shifting and, investing some of our money and our brand into, industries that don't, rely on people actually coming to our shores. Sorry, that was really long.
No, that was good.
That was great.
That was great.
That was great conversation. And I wanted to take the last few minutes that we have and kind of have a conversation kind of among ourselves. Kind of talk about, just go around and talk about what we have to look forward to when this is all said and done. Because again, like when I was a teenager and KFC had just really gotten the foothold in Trinidad and was working its way around, okay? It's the first time I'm coming from America, right? And I see a 2-story KFC. I ain't never seen a 2-story KFC. Like, how much chicken do you need? That's not what I was used to seeing, right? So I see a lot of the dollars leaving. And when you have tourists come in, it's hard to find a place to eat because everybody's like, oh, you can go to Taco Bell. I don't want tacos. That's not what I want.
Yeah, so, Caribbean.
Right. I don't want tacos. So what you were saying about everything coming from outside, hopefully this is a time that we'll learn to kind of sustain ourselves and not have to rely on tourism as much. Yes, we want people to come and enjoy the islands and share, and people who rely on that, like hotels and stuff like that, we want them to thrive, but we also want our own people to do well. So I'm going to start with Oneika. From all of your travels all around the world, tell us what cultures you've been to that you see they're very, very good at sustaining themselves.
Ooh, that's a really tough question that I actually have to think on.
It's quite tough.
I mean, in terms of, I guess, countries that I've been really impressed by in that regard, I would definitely have to say Japan. Japan and Japanese culture is a culture that's very insular. They don't cater to tourists and tourism. They are very culturally rich. You have a very much like contrasting high culture and low culture, with regards to, tea ceremonies and all of these very traditional, highly cultural things. And then you have low culture, like the fetish cafe culture or the fashion culture there. And so what I found most remarkable about Japan was you have this country that is so culturally rich, so beautiful, so interesting, and they don't cater to tourists. They're just basically like, well, here I am, and everything is written in Japanese, and you will have difficulty navigating the streets and navigating the transit systems because absolutely everything is in Japanese. And whether that's by design, whether that's something that's historical, it provides a really interesting experiential trip for people who are coming to visit. So I think that would be an example of a country that just kind of does its own thing and is kind of like, well, here we are and you're free to come and enjoy, but we're not necessarily going to cater to you.
So, Melissa, what has your experience been in the Caribbean with all the islands that you've been to? Which one do you feel is the gold standard of self-sufficiency?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a tough question. And I don't know that I can say that there's one that's actually, doing it all across the board. But I can say that the islands that really do highlight their indigenous people. So let's say your Garifuna people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines,
Yes,
Amerindian people in Guyana, and so on and so forth. When you really take a look at the way that your indigenous people on these islands are, have sustained themselves, their culture, their languages, and living simply and from the land, and continuing to keep the traditions intact. When those things have been highlighted, I think when it comes to sustainability, not only of culture and practice, not only of when we're talking about climate change and trying to mitigation and ensuring that we keep our shores safe and our people safe, and pivoting, those are the places that have done well, because these are people who have been able to maintain a standard through hundreds of years and have not let anything or anyone change that. And I think when I see that, if more countries take the time to really pay attention to what their indigenous people are doing, or the lessons we've learned from them, and continue to learn, there's a lot of value within that we can all take from it. And then I think on top of that, what we can see in terms of pivoting, one thing I wanted to bring up was the creative sector. So we've been hearing so much about carnival cancellation throughout the Caribbean and the diaspora. And of course, what we think about initially when we hear that is, okay, I can't play math, I can't jump up in my costume.
Yes.
I play math all the time, so that was tears flowed for that too. But what I really thought about is our creative sectors, right? Our math makers. Carnival is such a huge economic, there's so many people in the region. That's how they make their money every year. But the biggest thing, outside of course, the pandemic and health concerns, is that carnivals couldn't take place because we are so dependent on other countries to create our costumes. In China, even creating our costumes, bringing in some of the things that are a part of our culture. We started these things. We're these things. Why are we? So I think, to Ursula's point, bringing it back into manufacturing on our own islands with our talented people that have brought a product that people now emulate literally all over the globe. So I think getting back to basics, getting back to making sure that we can do it on our own islands with our own people, and putting a real structure in place. So not just stimulus money to help our math makers or our creative sector or our farmers get back on footing for now, but creating a mechanism that puts them on par to be successful through and through, and to create that not only crisis response, but I think we can't go back to normal. I think we have to move forward from here.
That is an excellent, excellent point. JoAnna, what have you seen in your travels as far as self-sufficiency, that like a tip that you could give to, say, a tourism board to, start getting people to focus on their own community first? Because we've got to come out of this better. We've got to come out of this ready for if it ever happens again. People are moving all over and they're taking their diseases with them, apparently. So, what can governments and tourism boards do to be prepared for the next time that this happens, at least from your perspective? What do you think?
That's really tough, Eva.
I should have sent the questions, but I'm never going to do that.
That's what I was really wanting. That's what I really wanted. But I really think that the tourism board, I really think that they need to focus on what they have, like the value that they have. When I went to, where did I go? I went to Trinidad last year. And granted, like we have oil and all that, but there's so much more than that. And like even in Trinidad compared to Tobago, they like focus on the beaches and all of that. But like they have the plantations and all of that. Like you don't really see people focus on that. Like focus on their natural resources and what they have, or what they really became famous for. In a sense, like back in the day. So I feel like a lot of people, especially coming from the diaspora, like I want to learn more about that And there are a lot of people that want to learn more about that, but they're not given it because they think that people just want the beaches. People just want like a cruise break. And there are a lot of people that, especially younger people, that want to embrace their culture, like because they were separated. Like me, I was raised Caribbean, but I'm born here. But there are a lot of people that were just born here and raised American, and they want to go back to that. They want to know where their grandparents are from and what their grandparents experienced or what their parents experienced. And I don't see that a lot when I go to the Caribbean, and I try my best. To really focus on that or to really immerse myself in that. So like whether it's like cooking classes or cultural tours, I really try my best to do that. Or I find that I've seen a lot come up, but they're not really emphasized or they're not really promoted. And sometimes you have to dig deep to find them. So if tourism boards do their research at least to find these things, because there are people that are interested in it. Like I'm tired of the ATV tours and zip lines. Like let me learn something that's authentic to this place, you know.
Yes.
So I feel that tourism boards, they need to do that more because sometimes like when I speak to friends, it's like, oh, why do you keep going to the Caribbean? It's the same thing. And it's like, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not.
You know what, JoAnna, you make such a good point, because one of the biggest travel trends of 2018 and 2019 was the experiential travel trend. So people are going to destinations, not just to sit on the beach, they're actually going to do something. They're going to, to hike Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
They are going to Thailand and not just sitting on the beach. They're going and doing a cooking class. And what you say is so important, because again, I get the same sort of reaction from people. They're like, oh, well, Jamaica and Trinidad and Grenada, they're all the same. And it is really difficult to find these cultural experiences. As a Jamaican, I would love to be able to go and do a tour of a dance hall reggae studio and maybe do a workshop with somebody who's teaching me how to play selecta. You know what I mean? I would, for example, I traveled to Brazil a few years ago with girlfriends, and one of the experiences we had, which was a hallmark experience, it was such a great time, was we did a samba class. We got a private instructor and we did a 2-hour samba class. And so I think to myself, again, as a Jamaican, I would love how to learn, well, not maybe dagger, but I would love to take a dance hall queen class and learn how to Dutch wine. And I think that would be such a valid cultural experience that goes beyond the beaches and beyond the red stripe and beyond the jerk chicken and the man on the side of the road with the jerk drum. These are experiences that will keep people coming back. And we need to, I guess, educate tourism boards as well, because I think that the Caribbean Tourism Board in particular are very stuck in their old ways.
Yes.
There's a disconnect.
In particular, traveler. You go to Barbados, you go to BIM, they call it Little England. I mean, the charter flights that come in from the UK on the daily, they are catering to that older, white, stuffy British traveler. And to your point, JoAnna, there are so many Black or brown or people of color from the Caribbean who are wanting, it's particularly first generation West Indians who were born and raised in, the UK, Canada, or the US. They are so curious about their culture, and they're so wanting to go back home and live those experiences that they had via satellite, or things that have been passed down to them in this new country from their parents and their grandparents. They want to go and see Bami and where it comes from and so on and so forth. So to your point, I think it's really important that we go and we educate these tourism boards and we make them realize that there's a really important tourism sector or demographic that they are missing.
Yes.
I think
Ghana really showed us that. I think
travel show, and I've talked to the Guadalupean Tourism Board, and I've talked to Jamaica Tourism Board, and I've, tried to instill the importance of reaching out to folks like me,
Yes,
and not just catering to this one population.
Yes.
Because our demographic of like young African Americans, we are spending money in travel.
Yes,
We
yes.
have disposable income, and we have the interest, and we're no longer fearful of traveling. And even more reason, if we are fearful of traveling to, say, Norway because we're fearful of racial discrimination, well, all the better to go to countries where people look like us.
Yes,
Yes.
People will
absolutely.
embrace us and will understand us. So that's something that I am very passionate about. And so, as someone who is a carnivalist as well, definitely cheers. I was thinking I was going to go to Jamaica at the end of the month and go shake up the table. Carnival, that's not going to happen. It's been pushed to October, I guess. These are the sorts of experiences I want to show. I did 3 carnivals last year, and a huge segment of my audience on social media is African American.
Yes.
And they're not familiar with that. So they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Why are you covered in paint? What does that mean? And that was a great learning opportunity for me to explain to them, okay, well, this is Juve, and this is how it ties into history, and this is why it's important and reflective of who we are as, people descending from, or people who are part of the African diaspora.
So I would say,
Oh.
what?
Everybody.
Listen. I told y'all this would be on a schedule, but for real, this conversation is what? Like, it's great. So let me just ask this question real quick. How do you feel like we can explain that they're leaving money on the table? Like, it doesn't even make sense. I'll say, when I went to Montserrat, I'm going to kick it to you in a second, Ursula. When I went to Montserrat, there was no fast food. None. I couldn't find any. I don't know if there was some, but I never saw it.
No, there's no fast food there.
So you really didn't. You know how when you're traveling, you're used to just having options. If you just say, you know what, I've had it. I don't even want to figure out if this is going to work with me and allergies and everything else. I'm just going to eat some tacos and call it, right? Not even thinking about that was almost freeing. Like, you knew that you were there, you were present in the moment, and you were really experiencing the culture. And it's kind of really easy to fall back into your old thing, right? And it brings in money because people bring kids and they're like, I don't want to explain to my child how they're supposed to eat this, how they're supposed to eat that, why it looks like that. I'm gonna give them a hamburger so I can get to the beach, right? So how do you explain to tourism boards and restaurants and people that are relying on these people coming in that they're leaving money on the table by offering people hamburgers? Because I mean, eventually I'm going to stop coming. Like, I've been to certain resorts and I'm like, I've paid all this money and I still have to leave to get the full experience. You have chefs that can cook way more than hamburgers. They go home and they tear it up, right?
Yeah.
But you're going to give me
with
quesadillas.
pepper sauce.
I don't want quesadillas in Jamaica.
Right?
Okay? I really don't. So tell me
a lot
how
of it.
you would kind of encourage them, Ursula. How would you encourage them to?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to crunching the numbers and, recognizing where their audience is coming from and who their audience is. Because, you go back to that, 30 million people coming to the Caribbean each year, primarily from, the US, Canada, as well as Europe, a good chunk of those, and probably over 50%, they are, connected in some way to the region. So, they were born there, or they're first, generation, second, generation. And so it's like getting the destinations to say, let's really look at the numbers, let's analyze the data, and I think some of them are starting to get it, like St. Lucia and, Grenada, they tend to, invite, a greater mix of people on their campaigns. Another one that is really stepping up is, Barbados. They, earlier this year launched a, We Gathering campaign.
Yes, that's what I was
And, it's like, essentially a year-long campaign where, every month they were planning to, feature and, have activities in, 11 of their parishes, and then a big, celebration in December. Unfortunately, because of what's happening now, it's sort of on pause, but it's, a major campaign and a recognition by, one of the destinations that, look, this isn't just about tourism, because if you go and look at their, We Gathering site, it's part, about, genealogy. So, making the connection to your family roots. It's also, about, investment. So, whether that's in, real estate, in schools, in hospitals, they really want to embrace their, diaspora. And that's what we need, a lot of the other destinations to kind of say, okay, let's be honest about our numbers and say, yes, it's great that we have a, white, European and, American audience, but let's not, forget or, discount who is really going to help you scale back up. Because, the fact of the matter is that, once we get the okay to, get on the planes, it's us who are going to be filling those planes.
Absolutely.
We're going to take these chances. Yeah. So it's I think, some of them are going to have to do some hard thinking right now, because there's going to be a certain level of risk that, goes with this whole virus, and it's going to be whack-a-mole, until we get a vaccine. And so, if they open up their, borders in 6 months, 12 months, who's going to get on the planes?
Yes.
I mean, I definitely know that this year, God willing, I want to go see my grandaunt, and so I'm going to take the risk. Now, not everyone's going to do that. And so it's, I think they're coming around, but it's been very, very slow.
Yeah. I think that they do really need to pay attention to who has to get on that plane. Who has to make that decision.
So, encourage people, the people who have personal ties and personal connections to the island, encourage them to experience that destination as a tourism destination. It's only now as an adult that I go to Jamaica to visit family, to visit my father even, and I'll usually spend at least 2 days in a resort. I'll spend 2 days in a resort in like Montego Bay, the Rio, or in Negril or something like that, before moving on to go and see my family. Because for so many years, going to the Caribbean was just a function of trying to see people. And now that I'm older, I have the money and I have the curiosity. I'm like, well, I have to experience the island for the beautiful tourist destination that it is. And that includes, the cultural stuff as well as the more touristy, I don't want to say bland stuff, but the tourist.
But I think that local or regional, like marketing to people locally and marketing to people regionally is going to be a major step in getting the Caribbean back on board in terms of tourism. You have to market your own country to your own people. Tourist boards have done enough of that. In addition to not marketing to your diaspora, including your first and second generation people, I for a long time felt very left out of anything that was done to market to the region, because I am first generation. And I think that the Caribbean has left so much money on the table by not doing that. And I think, to Ursula's point, when you look at the numbers, I think a prime example is Ghana's year of return in 2019 that I myself participated in. I mean, that was a phenomenal example of how when you tap into the diaspora, no matter where they are, and you make them feel connected and included, they will return the favor. And then they took it a step further, and 2020 is beyond the return, right? So even though things are on pause for Ghana, they already did what they needed to do to get people excited and wanting to come. So if you didn't get to go last year, they're making sure that there is a fire inside of you to want to come and connect. And genealogy, all of that was a part of that. And I think the Caribbean has been missing out a ton on just saying, well, we're going to focus on our regattas and our sailings and things like that. And not tapping into that deep, rich culture that makes each place unique to begin with.
So we could do this. Oh my God. But
All day.
we got another session coming up. So I'm going to close this out, but I want everyone to understand that you are looking right now at the future of travel. This, not me, because I'm just going to be going to where they tell me to go, but you are looking at the future of travel. When you need information on where to be and what to do and how to do it, I mean consumers, I mean tourism boards, I mean hotels, I mean governments. I need you to go to SocaMomSummit.com, go to this travel session and find these women. Find them. All of their social media, all of their websites are there. I need you to find them. They are the future of your travel and tourism industries. Thank you, ladies, so much for doing this and taking your time and, taking my off the wall questions. I really appreciate it. I won't do it to you again. Maybe. I don't know. So thank you all so much. And we're going to go really quickly, take about 30 seconds and tell us what you're doing, where to find you, and how everybody can support your efforts. I'm going to start with Melissa.
As a Caribbean correspondent, I'm going to, when I can get back to the region, continue to bring you stories from the region, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. So you can continue to support me and my work across television and digital at melissanoelreports.com and at Live from Melissa on Instagram. So I look forward to engaging with you and collaborating with you because I think we need to do a lot more of that.
Perfect. JoAnna?
So right now I'm in the planning phases of launching travel products. So you can find me online at JoAnnaE.com or Instagram. You can find me at JoAnna EN.
Perfect. Now, Ursula, where can we find what's going on with Caribbean & Co?
Yes, well, all things, related to, Caribbean & Co is at, caribbeanandco.com. And, really in the next weeks, months, I'll be shifting my, content more towards, thought leadership. So, really putting out some of my ideas as to how I think, one, we can, bounce back and, hopefully shift towards a brighter future for the region, because we have so much to offer, in terms of, our people and our culture. And, we really have to, showcase that and, and not, be timid, about what, we have to offer. So yeah, everything is all on, caribbeanandco.com as well as social media. Thank you.
Perfect. Oneika, tell us
Yes,
where we can find you.
Yeah, so you can find all of my up-to-date dispatches from all around the globe on social. So that's my current up-to-date stuff. So that's at Oneika Traveler on Instagram, Traveler with 2 L's, of course. And I'll be posting everything that I'm doing. And yes, please continue to support my work as a host and correspondent across broadcast and digital platforms. You can find me on NBC New York and travelchannel.com.
Wonderful. So again, thank you all very, very much. We appreciate you. And I do not want this to end, but I guess we got to give other people a chance to talk and say something.
Yes,
It was getting good though.
But I feel like we're going to need to continue this conversation at another time because there is so much to cover when it comes to travel, so much. So thank you all. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Thank you for having us.
All see you soon.
Having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.